Hey you guys, happy Friday. Well, at least it's Friday for me. It's Saturday for you if you're watching this because I'm going to drop it then. But this is another video of me and Amanda. Whenever we get together, there's always magic that's dropped. And whenever I connect with her, I feel like I'm able to get to a new place mentally because she just allows me, she allows the space. And I think I do the same for her. So, what's cool about this one as opposed to our others is it feels, I think she would agree with me, is it feels like we both showed up with like really high and really high energy and also very much in touch with the world of abundance and just believing that heaven is on earth here. So anyway, you guys know Amanda by now, and I hope you enjoy the video.
It's because I literally just drove. So Julia's grandma lives in Palm Springs.
Hmm.
And so we just took the sunny ass drive all the way from San Diego to Palm Springs, only 2 hours. And so
Oh,
I just literally got here.
oh
And
wow.
I did not want to move this. I did not want to do anything because of how this place makes me feel. And then also how it ties into work. And I was like, no, Amanda's the one person that I want to talk to about this
Yeah,
shit.
I love it. I
You
love
know
it.
what I mean? Yeah, yeah,
Yeah. Well, I'm
yeah.
excited because right before we got on, I was getting all these just really cool thoughts and my
Mm,
everything was just spinning. I was like, "Oh, this is revving me up to talk with Ricky because I
for
can feel
sure.
something just like ready and wanting to come through." So,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah.
yeah. That's what happens to us, huh? We just get lit up. Like
Yeah.
literally, we just get lit up. It's insane.
So I'm curious like what's been going on for you?
I mean, okay, big picture. I have I'm consuming right now like probably 60 to 70% less than I'm used to consuming.
Wow.
I'm on your call. Sorry?
You mean content wise?
Content.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And cannabis, actually.
Yeah. Okay.
But
Yeah.
that's kind of yeah, I actually haven't even thought about that right now. I am consuming a little, oops, I'm consuming a little less cannabis, but no, content wise, I'm just consuming less. And it's a cycle thing. It's not something that I was like, oh, I'm consuming too much. I want to change that. No, it's just like a very natural cycle thing.
Right.
And one of my favorite creators is this guy named Rob Bell. I talk about him all the time.
Yeah,
And
I'm gonna check them out because every time you say the name, I'm like, I feel like I know that person, like
well,
in my
yeah,
world, but I don't know actually know who he is.
anyone who is into the sanctity and the beauty behind the message of an organized religion,
Mm,
anyone who's into that beautiful like prayer and like Christianity, yet also is like bullshit to some things, is gonna love Rob Bell
huh.
because he created a mega church in the Midwest, and then he was just like, I was in meetings. Says this on his podcast. He was like, I was in meetings and they were talking about whatever, and I was thinking about quantum physics and how it relates to the church, and so he got
He sounds like
he
my type of person.
oh, I'm telling you, Amanda. I think content wise, you'll enjoy him. But the way I enjoy him is actually I just like the way he works in the world. I like the way he produces things. Like he's like, hey, I have a class this Saturday, and there's gonna be 300 people on it, whatever, and it's a Zoom class. It's like you going, it's like you being like, hey guys, I'm doing a pop up shadow contract thing, just me, gonna go over because I feel really $20, who wants to join, and
Yeah.
then tons of people are on it. So I think I study him because I really like the way he moves in the world. But so he did one of these classes called How to Create, and it's just like, how to bring something in your mind to reality and like material. And one of the things he said is like he learned that so much of his creative energy was going into support of other artists and
Mm,
like really diving into other artists and being like just consuming. And he's like, that is so much sacred actual energy that I can put toward my book or toward my whatever. And so I was like, wow, that's coming in great timing because I was already having that download. I was pulling away from interviews and stuff. And then so this past week, I've just cut down on consumption and produced so much more, and it's brought like a really grounded feeling to me, like,
mm,
oh, my work, it like my life is my art and my life is my business.
mhm.
It's so rad. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, I was actually just talking about that in I think the live for the Abundance Matrix group. But I
Hmm.
was saying how one of the biggest shifts I realized when my content just started picking up momentum and my
Mm.
audience started growing was when I just became more fascinated with myself above anyone else. I
Totally.
stopped consuming, and even now I rarely consume other information. And
Right.
it's not that it's like, or I'll just do tiny bits, but I feel like I'm so zoning into my lane that it's almost a distraction
Mm-hmm.
to dive too deeply into any other content, or like have my
Mm-hmm.
mind out there studying anything out there. It's like I'm studying me, and it's like the
Totally.
most fascinating journey I've ever taken, you know?
Totally.
Yeah.
Well, I'm in the middle of creating products that have an end. Like I'm creating a journal right now. I'm creating a line of journals.
Oh,
And
cool.
you're
You've been thinking this. Yeah.
yes. And so they're beautiful and they're just like they are what they need to be, you know? And I found myself having started so many cool projects that are so me, you know, but then I would listen to a podcast and it would be so true. It would be so like, wow, that is such truth. And then I would go try to implement that new truth to something that already had a beginning and end.
Mm-hmm.
So my
Mm-hmm.
stuff never felt like it was going to ever materialize. So I'm like, that I need to finish these things and then I can consume new when you know, Rachel Jensen actually helped me with that. She was like, everything has a cycle. It's all a cycle, you know. There's like gathering, she says, you know, isolation, I think explore or like showing it, what's it called, performing it, whatever, and then celebrating.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I was in gather for like a really long time, and now I'm just like in production, you know.
Yeah.
So I open myself up to things that I feel like I can spread my wings a little bit more,
Mm-hmm.
which is like the tantric group. That's why that still feels like something I'm plugged into. You know, it feels like something that just like allows all of us to do that.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
It's a cool space. This particular round for me, I feel like I'm shaping it at like a core level for me. It's like I'm starting to know what it is that I'm actually doing in that.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's like a different kind of round for me, because I kind of really am again in here so deeply,
Right.
figuring
Right.
out what my tech is, and how to leverage it, and what part of my tech is the most relevant for the group
Mm.
and what I'm doing, and you know what I mean,
Mm.
all those things,
Mm-hmm.
like really feeling into it. So it's been a cool space. But I feel the thing that somewhere along the line in the last like 2 to 3 weeks, I shifted into this space of like, I'm in it. I feel like I'm in the new world.
Totally.
I can feel the pulse of the creations that are coming. And I feel like this, it's like on the edge of excitement, but also realizing like it's so about slowing down right now, because
Mm-hmm.
divine timing is at play, and being lined up, really truly lined up, like with the whole self, with the body mind
Totally.
heart, lining our whole trinity up to like the what's about to unfold. Because
Totally.
I feel the split too, like every reality is going to play out, and every person's going to experience whatever they're the most resonant match to. And that,
Mm.
so a lot of people are shifting because they're getting the intuition, jump, 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 jump. And so they're like, whoa, I'm done with this black matrix. And a lot of people are jumping, you know? So
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I just feel this really cool energy. And I was actually pulling, I have to show you these while I'm thinking about it.
Oh,
But
sweet.
before we
Yeah.
got on the call, I I heard, pull one of these.
Oh, sweet.
Because
Literary.
it's all about artists, you know what I mean? It's
Yeah.
artists
Yeah.
and their tools. Like writers and their tools, but two tools came out. So it's like some cards are writers and some cards are tools. These are
Okay.
the ones
Cool.
that came out, and I thought, this is me and you. This is just what wildflowers and
And
spider.
spider. Oh, yes. 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 Yes.
And there's something about like the weaving, and I feel like this is what we're doing in the tantric entrepreneur group. Like we are
Mm-hmm.
setting a vibe, we're weaving it. We have to be like the
Mm-hmm.
spider that's so perceptible to resonance and vibration. Like that's
Mm-hmm.
the spider tech, you know, like to
Mm-hmm.
create a
Mm-hmm.
web. Dang. But then this to me, this is that, even though this would be more of like a feminine vibe, this reminds me of
Yeah.
like you two,
Totally.
you're like wildflowers.
Totally. I feel that. I
Yeah.
100% feel that. I
And
feel like, oh, go
sorry,
ahead.
you're gonna say, I was just gonna say, and this feels like me to me, but
No, I totally agree. And I almost feel like it's that Scorpio vibe a little bit. I was
yeah.
just talking about this with someone. The Scorpio vibe kind of gives like the house it would be in Harry Potter would be Slytherin. I was just having this conversation, and it's not a bad thing like the Black Matrix wants to make it out to be, but it is that like spider, like like what's going on with you? But you
Yes.
are so high tech, and like spiders also have to know where to weave, not only how to weave the web, but where to weave the web.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like,
Ah,
so for example, you going out and doing community outreach at the local whatever where you're at just doesn't feel as
yeah.
high tech as what you're doing. So you're like, I'm throwing this out online. Like you're very much, have you ever seen the OA?
Uh-uh.
Okay. Well, anyone who's watched the OA knows what I'm talking about. She basically goes on YouTube. She comes from this different world. Literally, she comes from a different dimension. And she's like, I don't know how this dimension works, whatever. She puts a video out on YouTube and is like, I need you to meet me tomorrow at the house at whatever. And she doesn't even say what type of person, she just says you. And then they show up. So I'm like, that
Interesting.
is you know exactly where you're weaving the web.
Mm-hmm.
And your way of weaving, since I've started to really hone in on your energy, is just like getting more and more and more and more like pinpointed,
Yeah, it's getting fine-tuned. I feel
super
like that's
fine-tuned.
what's happening. And I feel
Hmm.
like in my life, I've wondered for like my whole 20s and 30s, I was like jumping grids. I was all over the
Hmm.
place. I lived in Italy and I lived in Portland and I was in New Mexico for a while and
Hmm.
I lived in Sacramento and then Sedona. And I was like, I felt like I was in all these grids and I never quite understood what I was doing, or I could never ultimately see the bigger picture because I was like, I didn't know what my tech was and what I was doing,
Totally.
but I would download. I when I was in these spaces, I would feel like I would get the emotional imprint of the space.
Hmm.
And I would
Hmm.
go and it's like I don't know, I could read each grid like a very specific kind of vibe. And I
Mm.
feel like what I was doing is getting I was really getting studying like something about humanity and the way I don't know. It's I'm still unfolding like the codes that I got, but what I feel
Mm.
like I know is this like the resonance of what we're urging for, at least what I'm urging for, and people are in my field are urging for.
Hmm.
Something about being able to hold that resonance, you know.
Hmm. Hmm.
But what I've realized too through this group and through all the groups I've done really, but especially the Abundance Matrix Mastermind and this group in particular, because this group gets really, we're getting even more fine tuned into entrepreneurs and
I
artists
know,
and
I know.
creators. And I'm
Yeah.
like, whoa, I never knew that was my vibe of people because I didn't consider myself an artist, even though like everything I did in school, I always loved singing, dance. Um, I was in choir. I loved the arts. I studied English in college, but I never considered myself an artist because I didn't feel like I didn't know what my thing was. Like I wasn't a
Hmm.
fairly it's like a jack of all trades sort of person. But I'm realizing like this is my art. And
Hmm.
it's an art I've never seen. And
Hmm.
there's other people that are well, first of all, that I'm weaving a web that's catching
Hmm.
artists in particular, and that
Hmm.
we're doing something like this to me, like
Hmm.
wildflowers. You know what I mean? Like spreading the seed of beauty, just kind of where it grows up naturally and activating
Hmm.
it, where it's just gonna come up naturally. This is what I feel like your vibe when you came in
Mm.
did for the space, like pollinated it kind of. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like spread the pollen
Yes.
and get it, and then like I don't know, this artistic vibe is getting activated, and I'm seeing like on one hand in the Abundance Matrix Mastermind the absolute genius. Some people are just freaking geniuses in that group.
Hmm.
Geniuses in the way that my mind works as well, where it's not necessarily unless you have someone else that can reflect it back to you and talk to you and you're like,
Right.
oh, we see the same thing. It's like you
Right.
can't unravel your genius until someone you connect with other people who see the same world as you know.
Right.
And
Right.
there's like I said, people like you who I feel like are you're bringing it in, like you're bringing a different grid, a different part of the grid, you know, to like
Mm-hmm.
to do this to it, like beautify it, like
Totally.
beautify it and make it like who doesn't want to hang out in a field of wildflowers, you know, like
Right?
who
I
really
know.
resist that.
It's because it's kind of hard to believe from going from one world to the other. It's kind of hard to believe that you can just lay in a field of wildflowers and still be, good, like still be you. Yeah. So I love your way of reading. I love that you've pulled more cards, more and more and more and more and more,
Yes, the mix
because
is still huge right now.
it's what you just said about you having someone else communicate with you pulls out a whole new level of your own of you personally, your own tech. So now it's kind of like you're doing that with the cards. At least that's what I see. You're
Yeah.
like, you're working with them to bring this gnarly message, which I love too. And you're like me in that I don't want to necessarily go down the road. I don't feel particularly called to go down the road of honing in on that. Like I read tarot for people or like whatever. I just like dance with that, like I just understand them and I can like bring them to life or whatever. Same with crystals, same thing. I don't necessarily want to go down just the lane of just, it's just, it's exploration using tools like that.
Well, I also feel like part of your gifts too are very related to like what you did when you were in the 9 to 5 world, like
Oh yeah.
setting the tone for the party. Like, so it
Mm-hmm.
makes sense that you people like you almost need to like have a wide range of access to everything, so you can
Mm-hmm.
feel good for everyone. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it makes sense
Yeah.
that if you way too finely like went into crystals or tarot or anything like that, it doesn't really fit with your like mastery of making the room comfortable for everyone. You know what I mean? Like,
Totally,
but you
totally.
can pull it in here and there when you need it, and not just here and there, but I feel like with crystals in particular, maybe it's just
Mm-hmm.
because of how I was introduced to you, but like I
Mm-hmm.
remember that first reading and how I saw so clearly you were one of those people that came in when my brain was like, oh yeah, this person who has this tech, even though I've never seen it before, I know the tech and I knew it and I knew what you did, and I saw like the power of being able to just evoke an essence of a crystal even without even having the crystal.
Uh-huh.
And that's when I was like, oh,
Yes.
coding astral spaces. And then you were like, I worked in the club world, like, so I was like, whoa, like that's it. I see
Yeah.
how it
Uh-huh.
connected, and also like you can take those exact skills and create an astral grid from like the
Totally.
astros down to physical reality. You know what I mean?
Oh man, yeah. For someone like me, that like witness is like, I mean, that would normally make me like when we first started our like collaborative relationship, that would easily make me emotional because for you to see something like that in me is crazy, but because of the work that you do and this group and me feeling more just in that lane, it's just like it feels more grounded. So that's what makes me want to open up my computer and just start crafting things that feel like that,
Mhm.
that have an end and that have that are nuanced and have layers and stuff. So, but using that thing. And I think with crystals, the reason why it's easiest for me to do that with them is because with tarot or like with any other kind of divination tool, I can do it with how do I explain this? I would have to pull the essence of tarot itself, not just the card. Does that
Mhm.
make sense? I'll be like, tarot brings an overall this kind of energy, but
Mhm.
for some reason with crystals, it's like they're all a tarot. They're all tarot. Like this type of crystal is its own. You know what I mean? It's almost like they're not blanketed. They're not blanketed as crystals. That
Right.
at least that's the way I see them. They're all their own. It's like humans.
Yeah.
That's the way I see it.
Mhm.
Ah, you pick up on that, but I don't have words to
Yeah.
finish that. But you know what I mean.
Well, what's interesting to me is, and for some reason, this comes up every time we talk about crystals, because I know that because of stereotypes and because of whatever, that crystals can be stereotyped with people like us in a way that's like seems woo or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But one thing that you keep activating in me is this like importance of, it's weird because as I'm saying it, I see these crystals just lighting up, but all over
Wow.
in these different spaces. The importance of remembering the tech of crystals,
Yes.
and that it's an intuitive technology. It's connected to so many things, but ultimately it's data. And
Mm-hmm.
people who like there are some people who are just more natural at receiving that data, and if you can translate it, you don't even have to even talk about crystals. But
Mm-mm.
even if it's in your repertoire where like they want to work with you on a deeper level. And I think
Mm-hmm.
that there are other people that probably are listening to this that actually that's have a very similar call. It is a specialty, but it
Mm.
doesn't have to be. It can be totally behind the scenes, like your
Totally.
private craft. You know?
Totally.
But I feel like for some reason crystals like want to communicate, and especially with those who can read them,
Yes.
you
Oh
know.
my God. Exactly, Amanda. Like You know, the popular version of what we're saying, or the mainstream welcomed version, is feng shui. You
Yeah.
know, like my, okay, so my journal that I'm making, I don't know if I'm gonna actually put this in the journal, but it was created by 3 crystals plus me. You
Mm,
know, it's the same. So for example, let's say I'm answering emails, or let's say I'm working on a different creative project B. I'm working on project B. Once I want to go back to project A, which is this journal, I go and get those same 3 crystals, because it's the essence plus they're either helping me pull the essence through, or we're collaborating, all 4 of us,
mhm.
and we're creating this thing together. So you're right, like, it doesn't mean I'm going to be a crystal healer necessarily, but it is imprinted in all of my work.
Exactly. And it's
Yeah,
powerful. And I
yeah.
think that there's something that Kinsey has been working with me on as we've been talking about my brand and what that even
Mm-hmm.
is, and like exploring that universe. She's put it into language that work better for me than brand, but she's talked a lot about my universe and like creating a mood board for my universe. How does it feel? How does it feel when people are in it? And for me,
Mm-hmm.
that's when crystals get activated instantly. It's like I have to go all the way out to the edges, and
Mm-hmm.
like these certain crystal frequencies want to be there because they simply evoke something for me that activates something in my resonance that makes
Mm-hmm.
that more of the equation for me instead
Mm-hmm.
of like whatever. So and I think this is true with any association, but there's a master craft to astral creations when we create from like that space all the way in and then out,
Mm-hmm.
you know.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And so there's something about people who can evoke the energy of that really strongly in their field with because crystals
Oh,
do have a very particular frequency. they're
yeah.
they're related to tech. I mean, quite literally, we know the first radio was a quartz crystal, and that there's
Right.
crystals in our smartphones, and like they're part of tech.
Yes.
It's untapped territory, but I think multi-sensory people could do so much more in terms of shifting algorithms,
Mm-hmm.
magic, what we would call magic, if we think of it like programming. And if you can
Mm-hmm.
access that kind of grid with those frequencies and work with them and evoke those energies in your field, there's something going on that's so much bigger than we can even understand, that's connected to the multidimensional internet.
Totally, my God. Yeah. I honestly, I can imagine, and I would love if this was a whole new um entrance into a whole new I want to say album, because that's what I think of as my work, is like album, album, album. I'm in my sophomore album. I feel like for you, shadow contracts, urge, lack, abundance, all these things, it is a really huge album for you, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah.
Like, and I'm wondering what is, like, eventually what the next iteration or album or something will be like, you know? But it's going to be a whole new level of what you've
Yep.
already. And so I kind of feel like when, I don't know, the energy that you just channeled whatever you just said, by the way, because you were just going. And so whatever, selfishly, I'm like, keep going with that, because
Yeah.
you're helping people like me who have this understanding innately, but not really words, not
Yeah.
really, you know what I mean? I only have words to it when someone like you comes in my life.
Right, for sure.
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
I feel like people like you and people who are listening who are resonating with this need permission. It's like it's
Oh, yeah.
something we just
Yeah.
in it. And I feel like what wants to come through is that just like give yourself total permission to go into your tech because you haven't seen it before. We talked about this last
Mm-hmm.
time. It's not something that you can look around you and find someone else doing. Not to say there's not other people doing it, but most people who get that specialized, they're not out there talking about it because that pokes
Mm-hmm.
holes in their creation because the
Mm-hmm.
collective mind is not there and they don't get it. So why even
Mm-hmm.
bring that energy in? All that matters is that you track with what you know and like
Yeah.
let it light you up. Let it, because you'll feel it in your resonance. Your field gets bigger and bigger, and it's part of. It's also part of. So if you evoke a really strong crystal energy in your field, you it that that signature alone is full of data and everything that
Mm.
we collectively associate with that, including and interpreted through your the way you like interact with the energy signature of it, like the fact that you
Mm.
even appreciate it and love it. Tiger's my
Right.
example. Like when you bring
Yeah.
something in and you love it, that that opens the signal even more. Like you've given more permission for that signal in your field, so more data comes through.
Oh, yes. Oh, I just got chills everywhere.
Yeah.
Yes.
And that's what I meant about scrambling signals, because
Right.
part of the reason why people are collectively asleep, like the collective mind of humanity does not remember what it is because it's been in trauma. And there's all these lines of energy that they're not communicating. And so we're not getting the neural pathways firing in our normal ways that they're fired. So something about people who can evoke crystals, because crystals carry data and crystals have information about the story of what we actually
Yes.
really are, and all the quote unquote history that we've lost. We didn't lose it at all. We have it in our bodies, and we have
Right.
crystals in our bodies. There's like, it's all connected. So something about that quantum field of astronomical abundance is connected to your direct knowing, whether you know why you know it or not. I
Right.
feel like it's also coming from your sacral area, like you're feeling a pulse there, that just
Mm-hmm.
like that's almost how
Totally.
like
Totally.
just where are you being called, and go straight into it. And it's like, because at this level we're traveling via resonance, it's the quickest way to manifest. And that's why
Mm.
the logical linear, okay, do this and then do this and then do this, starts becoming less relevant.
Mm.
It's more relevant retrospect, because the human mind wants to understand
Right.
the middle end. So then we're like,
Right.
oh, this is how it began. This is kind of what I figured out in the middle. This is the end, and I'm going now into a
Yes.
new cycle. But like,
Yes.
while you're in it, it won't necessarily be linear or make any sense, because we're talking
Right.
multidimensionality at this point.
Right. Right. And I have, okay, so, and I have totally eased up on myself about trying to fucking understand all of it because of exactly that. I have that innate knowing too, that it's just like I'm moving at a different, I'm moving with some different tools now. You know what I mean? The tools are different, the laws are different here. You know, it's different. So with that, that's why sometimes I say, can everyone just pause? There's too many metaphors in this one in this one social situation. Can everyone pause? I need to write them down, you know, and then I need to like make something out of all of them, because when you truly believe like this, when you truly settle into whatever gear you need to settle into here, it's like I feel like downloads come, but they come in the way this world works, which is time and space aren't as linear as the 3D, right? So like I get downloads sometimes about things that I'm going to be doing in like 10 years. And for a while, I started working on those things because I was like, oh God, well, does that mean I have to work on them now? So that, what you just channeled is like confirmation for me that, oh, okay, those are things that you write in your journal and you just like close because it's
Yeah,
coming. It's
yeah,
coming, you
yeah,
know? So that, so to circle way back to where you asked me like how I was in the beginning, is like, that's why I have shifted into a gear where I just feel comfortable with what's coming in the next month. Work wise, like what am I like for you, like for your group, like what call am I going to have next week? Like what can I cook up that feels like really good for
yeah,
for the
exactly.
kids to hear today? Like it's that kind of energy
Mhm.
versus like, okay, I have that going, I have that going, I have that going. It's like, yes, it's all going, but it's going at the pace it can here in form.
Yep,
So
exactly. Well,
yeah.
and the fact that there's so much new happening and we collectively are at a pause, we don't know what's going to happen. And a lot of people are projecting worst case scenario, but then there's people getting activated like you that are just
Mm,
like so getting activated in their gift and getting so honed in. And that's the part that nobody sees, because that's not being
mm-hmm,
televised or on media, or unless you're tuned in, you don't know. So you don't have the data of what's like
mm-hmm,
actually going on in the underbelly of these new grid workers that are like actually have influence and actually are waking up. So there's
totally.
huge shifts in algorithms happening, and it's going to shock people, because it's like that's that time of like innovation and the
Mm,
renaissance. But
mm.
what I was going to say is that, let me get back to it because it's important what you
Okay,
just said.
okay.
There was two things you said. Metaphor, like I have to slow down, and
Mm-hmm,
there's too many metaphors going on.
mm-hmm.
What I heard when you said that is that metaphor is one of the languages of programming, and also
Yes.
a hack to manifesting.
Yes, Amanda.
Yeah.
Yes.
So
That's why poetry is a thing,
yes,
people. Yes.
exactly. Poetry
Yeah.
matters. It matters so much.
Yes.
And slowing way, way, way down, like we've been talking about. Oh, this is where it comes full circle to, is I think for people that are in this space, like you and I are in, and I just feel it, that pulse of the new, it's like, it's new. So the most potent way we can hone in is like in the moment. And like, hey, this week, what how do I want to flirt with this day, this week?
Right.
You know
Right.
what I mean? And I want to get so like honed in instead of projecting too much into the future or even trying to plan too much into the future right now. Because
Totally.
there's too much of there's a huge ass piece that none of us know.
Right.
So it's like and the ego wants to control everything, and even how business is done, like project 5 years out, do your 10-year plan, have everything in your life so planned out so you know what's going and you're driving your life. But this game is a little different. It's like, no, like play with the universe, play with source, play
I'm
with
getting chills like literally everywhere. It's freaking insane. Like sometimes I think that when we are both like out of all of our conversations today, the stars aligned where you and I were both in a gear that we're like, oh yeah, we're doing some good shit right now.
yeah,
You
I knew
know?
right before I got on. I was like
Yes.
excited about this call.
Well, even me, I like this morning, we left a little later to come down than I wanted to. And we basically just got here, but I was like, no, no, no. This call, and where I'm at right now in Palm Springs, this beautiful place with, with my computer, talking to my friend, but also like posting this. And it's also all tying in. That is a metaphor of
Mhm.
this world. So I'm like, I don't even know how I can pull that one through other than just this conversation, which I also think the third player at play here between me and you is our conversation. Our conversation itself is it is a crystal. Yeah, it's its own thing. It's not even just a crystal. It's like its own human. It's
Mhm.
weird.
Mhm.
It's crazy. Really, like my creative brain goes to like we could make that a character. Do you know what I mean? And that's how characters come about. Like that's how fiction becomes a thing. So
That's like I've been for I would say about 4 years now, getting just huge downloads of like characters for shows.
mm,
It's like done cartoon but beautiful, and all these metaphors and this language of multidimensionality is told, but
mm,
through metaphor, through poetry, through like visuals in terms of quantum physics. Like I know
totally.
that's one of the next iterations for me, is actual like creating stories, like visual stories, because that you
Oh my God.
need to see it, you know?
Yes. Okay, so that is what I was talking about. Thank you for helping me hone in on that with you specifically, because I think there's a bunch of different levels to creation. Like the spider card that you pulled,
Hmm.
I feel like you're really learning and you're really you're really feeling grounded in your art form right now, which is your work. Really, your
Yeah,
business is your art form. It's crazy. And then it makes total sense because you're actually teaching that too,
yeah, yeah.
which eventually I want to get to your understanding. Well, I'll pause on that for now. But so second iteration, I mean, would be like creation that isn't so on the nose. And I cannot wait to see what that is for Amanda. Yes, you're gonna have to partner with the right people that have the technical abilities, but that's everybody. You know what I mean? Like either it's a director or like a whatever. But I can't wait to see that level of artistry come from you.
Yes.
And basically, I feel like you're just doing this first because you're calling in your peeps. You're
Yep.
like, okay, great. You're literally weaving a web. It's so cool.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, I've realized that, like, for the truth is that for my vision to ultimately come together, it's like everyone else needs to put it, like actually make it happen, and I have to hold the vision and like
Hmm.
and like activate people. Like that's what
Hmm.
I've realized. And for
Hmm.
a long time I resisted against that because I thought I had to do it all, you know, and I was the universe of just has been so clear about, no, like you have to hold the vision and just continue to move forward with it,
Mm.
but allow us to bring in all the working components. And that's the part I was
Mm.
resisting for a long time, just because relationally I was working through shadow contracts. So
Right.
I wasn't ready to actually create with people at the level that's required for this kind of birthing of, I feel like it's
Yeah.
a birthing of a world, you know?
No, totally.
So
Totally.
now that's coming together, and that it's just so cool to feel confident. And like shadow contracts have been huge because I would have never, it wouldn't have been this, my vision has to be done in the win-win-win or it doesn't work.
Totally.
So, and it wasn't a win before. And most of the other things I tried to co-create just simply because I wasn't truly in alignment with my urge, you know?
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
that's why I just feel so grateful for Rachel Jensen and Emily Modcus who've both been.
Mm.
Emily has the more like the poetic side of urge, and
Mm-hmm.
you know, the actual just like moving it forward side of urge. But both of them, I feel like in the work that I've done with both of them have been huge in
Yeah.
activating like the two parts I needed. Get poetic, huge. Get poetic with my life, because my life is like, my life is my art and my art is my life. So
Exactly.
I couldn't separate them. And I realized like I can't, my job isn't this job on the side that I just do and then I have my life. It's like my job is my life. So how can I
Mm-hmm.
marry that? And poetry was the answer for that.
Totally.
Rachel was like, get primal,
Yeah.
and like get connected, get out of your head and into your body. Cause I was up here
Mm-hmm.
for a long time just in my channeling, but not
Totally.
expressing it in the body. And that's the big part that Rachel has been so key in for me, is just like get in your body, get in your,
Totally.
have sex,
Totally.
have more sex. Oh, and then have
Totally.
more sex. That was
Yes.
Rachel, you know, hers was like have sex, please.
All
And
of it. All of it. And
exactly.
walk barefoot more often. That's
Yep.
what she told me. She's like, walk barefoot just more often. Like be more aware of your the edges of your physical body. Yeah. You
Yeah,
know? So
exactly.
I love hearing about your relationship with Emily and Rachel, because I kind of feel like you guys are like a triangle, like a strong shape, and almost like Charlie's Angels vibes. You know
Oh,
what I mean? Like you guys are all, because I'm sure Rachel has her this whole concept of, I'm kind of zooming out now on this convo, because like this whole concept of tribe is such a thing, and it's so obvious that you're in my tribe, I'm in your tribe, we're of the same tribe. And
mm-hmm.
then, you know, poke your head out onto the crazy internet and you'll see another group of people doing exactly this in their in another way. You
Yep.
know, they're figuring it out in their own way or whatever. And so I just like the way how I just like how nuanced tribes are, because everyone plays a different part in your experience. Like you, Rachel, and Emily feel like you all kind of like help each other, like almost like session wise, but
Mm-hmm.
also you work together, you also like collaborate together, you
Yeah.
know. And then you have a whole group of people that you like really help coach, and then some of those people come through and like create with you too. I don't know, it just, it
Yeah.
kind of reminds me of like Marvel, and I love Marvel so much, regardless of whatever Marvel is actually. I just love the concept of like superpowers and like, okay, for this battle we need like the Hulk and um uh Captain America, and for this battle we need like the Hulk and Iron Man, because that makes more sense. For this
Mm-hmm.
battle, Ricky and Amanda, and what they evoke makes total you know, more sense. And not battle, it's more like for this mountain to climb, Ricky
Yeah.
and Amanda makes sense to go there. For this one, Rachel and Amanda, that is what we need, you know. Like yeah, and that kind of feels like knowing what crystals to pull together. So it's
Totally.
all the same, like it's all the same thing.
And I think it's so important, especially in co-creating with others, is to, it's easier said than done, but it's it can be difficult sometimes to let it just, the creation be its own thing, because we
Totally.
may think it needs to go one way, but the actual entity of it is doing its own thing for reasons we may not even know. But if
Right.
we take it personal, it can, again, it's a shadow contract part.
Right.
Like
Right.
get too involved in it and think, oh, well, why wasn't I in that part? Or how can I do, you know, or like I wasn't good enough, or compare ourselves to others or whatever. And
Right.
that's why sovereignty is so key to me. Like the co-creations that are going to create heaven on earth, they've got to be done in sovereignty. They've got to be done according to the win-win-win. Win for everyone, self, others, and the planet. That's a thing. And
Yeah.
I think I see it as like businesses even taking that model in and saying, we're going to create our whole business model around the win-win-win. It's a win for
Mm-hmm.
the whole. It won't be a win for any of us if it's not also a win for the planet, if it's not
Mm-hmm.
also a win for our consumers, and if it's not also a win for us. Everyone
Mm-hmm.
should benefit in the equation. And the
Mm-hmm.
lack matrix always has to fuck someone over. And
Yeah.
so we're like programmed to expect in many ways war in creation,
Mm-hmm.
you know?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's why I think the universe stopped me, God, source, whatever, and was like, this has got to be clear, or
Mm-hmm.
nothing you say will ultimately manifest as as its evidence of its own self. Like,
Mm, mm.
shadow contracts have got to be dissolved. You've got to be sovereign. And that the biggest part for me was really having to let go of feeling responsible for everything and feeling responsible for how people felt. And all of that has been so it's like these simple things, but it's amazing how not having sovereignty was holding, in many ways, like holding back my art.
Right. Yeah. And like that's something I just have like the biggest spot in my heart for women particularly, because I think that on a bigger scale you do feel like you have to show up a certain type of way to
Hmm.
make sure the other person is nurtured,
Yeah.
because you take care of the home, like you take care of me and Julia were just talking about this, and of course there's beauty to all of that too, but when it gets spun out of control and you're just trying to get a seat at the table and you
Mhm.
take care of every person sitting at the table, there's
Yeah,
no creativity left, there's no sexuality left. So
exactly.
I love what you're doing with shadow contract, and it also makes sense too. I learned shadow contracts from you, like instantly. Like it was not something I had to go and study. Like that's why I don't like, if you were to do another workshop or whatever, it's not something I need to keep going and diving into, because I think my natural inherent masculine energy, if channeled right, is like, okay, so just don't be bothered by that. Okay, great. So for example, I've already told myself in my business, if one of your friends and you want to create something and it's so rad, it's such a good idea, and then last minute they're like, but you know what, I think this is like my thing, or I think this, or something gets pulled out,
Mhm.
that is because that is the best thing for that.
Mhm.
You can't be mad at any
Yep.
of that stuff.
Yep.
You can't, because in order for, and this is just goes back to generosity, which like my parents taught me from, they taught me just by being it. It's like the more you actually have your arms open and say like, okay, I'm going to give here, and someone might come and totally steal my idea, totally steal it and run with it, but like no one can do it like you,
Yeah,
duh, because you're the
exactly.
source, you're the source of it.
Yep.
So yeah, so just an interesting point in that is like, because I was able to learn shadow contract stuff so early, it has so early and so easily, it wasn't hard for me to learn that. It's helped me with so many things have fallen through since I've been out of the 9 to 5. Like, oh, okay, maybe I'll help you consult on that thing. Maybe I'll help you consult on that thing. I've had like 3 things outside of all of this world that we're in, and they just timing isn't right. And I'm like, whatever. It makes sense. I'm gonna print my line of journals. I'm gonna keep with my business going forward, you know?
Yep.
So it's a really, really good lesson to learn. And it is really, really, oh man, I wish I could just give the people a pill that will just dissolve that for them, which is just
Yeah,
don't
because it's
worry
a
about
huge
it.
part. It's a huge
Yeah.
part of what holds creations back, is because we get attached to our own vision of how we think it
Hmm.
should be, or we get attached to our timing, or our, and the thing itself has its own life. And it's including things we don't yet see or understand. And that's the part where it's like, not to take it personal if something
Totally.
falls through, or if
Totally.
it looks different than when you thought it was going to look. But something about, like you said, and I think it's a code, it's an abundance
Hmm.
code, is just like, stay
It
with
is a
the moment.
code. It
Like, stay with
is.
the moment, and
Yeah.
be like, hey, like you said, well, I'm going to focus on this week. To
Right.
me, lately, this day, this week, even this round of the tantric entrepreneur group, I've kept wanting to have it all pre-done, and like I had these big ideas to have it all mostly done
Right.
before I even started. And then Christy and I were talking, and I realized, like, first of all, I have to feel into the group, because the needs, really what I do is feel into the pulse of the group, a huge part of it. You know what I mean? And
Hmm.
I want it to be relevant to what we're co-creating and to what
Uh-huh.
we're reaching into and expanding into. And so I needed to, like, this new round, it's like I felt people kind of coming in, and like their resonance kind of shifting into the group. And the whole time I was just like feeling. And Christy was just like, let's just take it week by week. Like,
Totally.
week, let's instead of feeling like you have to have the whole thing pre-done. Like, and that's been so much more, I
That's
don't
good.
know, just like
That's good.
a lot better for me mentally, to be able to just take it week by week, and to get really into it and flirt with it.
Yeah, I think the only suggestion I would give you is to get more comfortable with that. The way that you're naturally,
Totally.
like because I've been in iteration 1, 2, and 3,
Hmm.
and each of them have had the magic of it, which is you. You're the magic.
Yeah.
But you, or you, even to be even if you want, because you're a humble person, you always take it more humbly. That you, what you evoke, what you bring to the group, isn't that structure. Like here's the thing. You've made some structural changes that have really helped the group's flow, which is dope. Yes, amazing. But that's not why people are signing up.
Yeah.
Like, so I would just, like, actually, I was talking to Christy about this too. I was like, I love that Amanda is like still down last minute to be like, that was programmed for week 6, but it just doesn't make sense for week 6.
Yeah.
And I think it's because you see so far ahead. So you try to make this like nice little landscape out for everybody, but you're like, oh, timing worked differently. So I personally think that you are handling that spot on. I think if it was more structured, and I think if it was more like, okay, so, because then you wouldn't show up. You wouldn't show up the way that you show up to this conversation right here.
Yep,
And then
exactly.
that's the whole thing. That is the whole point.
Yes, that's what working with Sandy on human design and her doing my human design also helped me really see, is that that's part of how I work. Like I
Hmm.
need to be spontaneous, and I need to
Yeah.
be free and in the moment, because that's how my inspiration comes through. And so if I over structure myself or even over plan, I'm
Right.
getting really good with my schedule. And now Megan said this, so she talked about flirting with your calendar, like flirting with
Hmm.
your schedule, and I loved that. And I'm like, when I look at my schedule, I want to feel good about it. And I want to feel like
Totally.
there's this freedom in it. If I don't have at least 2 days during the week where I have nothing that I have to do,
Yeah.
nothing else, like everything starts feeling muffled and foggy, and like, and then I don't show up in anything as well, you know?
Yes.
So I
Yes.
feel like a huge part of what the tantric entrepreneur experience or experiment is teaching me is how to get in rhythm with my urge, really in a
Right.
rhythm and a flow with my urge. And I'm seeing directly of how when I do it, things just sort of magically happen in their own
Totally.
way. And everyone's this is the thing that's really clear to me, is because we're working with online, it's not like we're meeting in person. Everyone is in such a different place at different times doing different things. People are watching it at their own time. We're not all on the same linear schedule as it is. So
Mm-mm.
trying to have it too linear in a group of people that are all on different schedules, it feels like more than anything, the resonance is what needs to be stabilized more than the schedule itself. You
Yes.
know what I mean?
Yes. And I love for your brand that you kept it an experiment. You
Yeah.
know, I would even go, as it continues to go more and more and more and more evolved, like I think it can also change into an experience,
Yeah. I keep
because
saying that word too on accident. So it's kind of there anyway.
totally, because like you said, it's this one feels bigger, like the biggest snowball it's ever been. And it
Mhm.
feels like, whoa, almost a little like almost like out of control and
Oh,
like a
yeah. I
little
totally feel that way.
chaos. But
Mhm.
that's the whole point. We have to remember that's the whole point. It's
Yeah.
supposed to, because imagine all that suppression for so long. And then all of a sudden, not one person gets seen, not two, but like 30, 40, 50 people get seen all at once. How
Mhm.
is that going to be a smooth thing? It's not. So
Yeah.
that's what I mean. I kind of see you as like this, like you're kind of just moving it. You're like, okay, now we're going this way, people. Now we're going this way, but nothing is structured
Yeah.
because all of the people in the group are like, no structure. We're like,
Yeah.
no, like, or not no structure, but no oppression,
Yeah.
no oppression.
Well, and I'm sort of urging for an even deeper level of that I want to be able to have it a little more intimate, but I'm realizing that would require it to be more like that almost out of control snowball feeling is this because the group doubled just
Right,
from round 2 to round 3, it doubled.
right,
So I'm like, I've realized like, okay, this is already becoming its own thing, because the more people, the more vibe, the more moving pieces there are, the more moving parts. And like you said, when people are getting seen and witnessed and experiencing things they've never experienced in many ways, it's like you can catapult and then you have the pullback, and then you have
mm,
like, and everyone kind of goes through their own cycle of dealing with their own lack beliefs that come up, that they're,
mm-hmm,
and in a group of empaths, it's key to be sovereign, because
mm-hmm,
it's easy to then go into the like feeling where we slip into that taking care of each other,
yeah,
or just getting out of our own urge. And so I love the sovereignty I've allowed myself in this space.
yeah,
I can feel that, like, ooh, like I'm even kind of like, oh, okay, what do I do with this at this point? Because I don't know that I want it to be any bigger. And if it
right,
is any bigger, I have to take more of a step back from it. You know what I mean? Like from an energy standpoint, but I still want to funnel my energy deeply, more intimately into something. So
yes,
kind of in like the iteration we've been talking about, where maybe people work with all of us. And I
yeah,
don't know,
yeah,
but
yeah.
I'm craving that deeper communion level with like a small group of people as well, you know?
Okay, well, here's some encouragement for you, because the first iteration got deep to a place where it could hold 50 more people, in my opinion. It didn't go deeper to where this is really for like a ayahuasca ceremony for like 20 people. It didn't go there, which
Yeah.
is perfect, which meant there can be more people in it. So more
Yep.
people came. So I think that if this group turns into a funnel for people to come through and feel this whirlwind of energy, you can't be mad at that, right? Because that's the
Totally.
whole
Yeah.
thing. It created
Right.
itself.
It's
And
created.
then
It's a portal. It's exactly what it feels like.
it's a portal. And then that's when Amanda masterminds and is like, okay, well, now I'm craving this because you craved the experiment in the first place. Then you go into something else. And then that pulls the people who are ready for that level in. Because
Yeah.
not everyone who's in that group, we're not all at the same place, which is the
Yeah.
most beautiful thing. Like, I mean, some people are just realizing that they haven't been themselves for 40 years.
Mm-hmm.
And then some people have been doing this type of work for 40 years.
Yeah.
So it's just all over the place.
It is.
Yeah.
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 It definitely feels like it's gonna have its own second like next
Yes.
level or next part of the funnel.
Yeah.
I love this space and I love what it's becoming, and it just feels like it's swirling through my energy body right now. That's
Right. Right.
And then there's some people in there specifically, just their energy signatures that are moving to that next level as well, and you can
Right.
feel them light up.
Ah, I love it. I
Like
love
you
it.
can feel that power, and it's like whoa. And then you can feel like people who, like you said, are just in many ways waking up for the first time, not waking up entirely, but waking up to their gifts
Totally.
in a way
Totally.
that has its own like spring energy, that beautiful young energy feel, but it's so new and full of potential, so
Oh,
yeah,
yes.
it has.
I picture some women I've connected to from the group, and some of them have just told me like, yeah, I've just spent the majority of my life catering.
Hmm.
Literally, I'm a catering company to other people. And like, so that's what feel it's not like they've been compassionate, they've been kind-hearted, they've been, awake in the sense of that, but it's just like awakened in themselves. Now that is some wildflower energy. Like
Yeah.
I like that. I love that energy. And so what's interesting about our relationship, I just realized, me and you, is that one thing that I think allows us to be so explorative in the astral realm is that, and also so cool with it here on earth, is that we're super agile when it comes to duality. Have you noticed that with
Yeah.
me and you? Like, we're like, okay, the group is chaotic feeling at points. Who's to say chaotic is not something that we can feel here on earth? Like,
Right.
why does the brain immediately go, okay, it's chaotic, we have to bring it in? Why?
Mhm.
And then when things get too, like for me personally, when things get too far in the future, whatever, I what's wrong with having some structure in my day? Because that's the other
Yeah.
side of this whole spiritual thing, is like, you don't need structure, you don't, just go with whatever. It's like, well, for me personally, scheduling out my day where, whatever, that feels good. So I don't know, that was just like a little aside, but I feel like that's something to that's one part of our conversation's personality.
Yeah, totally.
Dances on the duality. It's
Yeah.
just like what feels good, what feels
Yeah.
better.
Well, my moon is in Virgo, and when I learned
Oh,
that and learned more
I
about,
have got to see mine.
yeah, I was like, dang, okay, that makes sense, because the like more dominant part of my personality seems like it doesn't like structure, but I always have this internal like struggle with it, because I actually really love structure. Like I love how it makes me feel. I love routine that feels good. It
Mm-hmm.
has to feel good. And so most people who know me would more identify with me as like not being structured, but
Right.
my deepest internal self, I actually really value and love structure. And I love
Totally.
how people can bring structure into my life, which has been so the biggest benefit of hiring people who are helping me structure my business, because I'm like, oh,
Totally.
thank God I can value it, I can pay for it, and someone can implement it for me, and I can
Totally.
maintain it well, but I don't have to be the one to come up with it.
Totally. Because
But
you're not in your lane when you're doing that. So it's
yeah,
like, why be that? I don't know. For me and you, I feel like there's something to this series that we're doing. You know what I mean? And
yeah,
like, there's something there that, for the right person, where they're at in their thing. Like it's the people that comment on our videos and are like, oh, I feel free after that conversation. It's something that only comes out of me when I talk to you.
hmm,
And it's like, it's just this, like, there's something I'm craving, like, in Los Angeles, pop-ups where it's like such a thing. It's like pop-up collaboration between this dope poet and this dope I don't know, food company or whatever, and there's a pop-up and it is what it is. I'm craving that type of energy with you. I
Yeah.
haven't even told you this yet, but I haven't yet understood what that's going to be, but I'm
Yeah.
craving just like a boom, like what is this? We don't know and you don't either, but it's going to be good. You know what I mean? Like
Yep.
some type of cool energy. I don't know.
I
But
agree. I'm feeling it too. It definitely feels like something's forming and taking its own
I
life,
know.
even in our flow. Because there are people I've noticed every time we post a conversation, there are definitely people who are tracking with our exact
Yeah.
vibe.
Yeah.
So it's cool to
Yes.
it's something that's urging to be like developed and informed more, I feel like.
Yes, and that's why I brought up that dancing on duality thing, because I think that I'm just basically looking for characteristics of, like, if we were a Venn diagram, here's Ricky, here's Amanda, where do they meet in the middle? If we could find the characteristics of that persona or that whatever,
Mhm.
that is what we would bring to a pop-up, to a Zoom pop-up, to a whatever. I don't even
Yeah,
necessarily care what it is,
yeah,
but that's what we would bring, and that's what the value is.
yeah.
So
I agree.
there's just so much.
Yeah, I can feel even like people having ideas about it. Like, oh,
Hmm.
I would love to hear you guys talk about this or whatever, whatever. So,
Totally. Oh, that would be so fun. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, I'm
I
excited.
love this series. Okay, so I just upgraded my 3D technology big time. I got a new computer. I got a new monitor for my office. I found my buddy's a designer, and he redid my website, and so everything is feeling so good on the my what do you call it, my container is feeling so good, and
Uh-huh.
so it just makes me like alive to have these conversations, and boom, post it. So
Yeah,
like the content now for me doesn't actually have to, what am I trying to say? I'm trying to say I can be more of me, which is this free flowy, like whatever, whatever. The production value on the YouTube videos for me doesn't have to be that good because everything else is feeling comfortable.
totally.
You know
Yeah.
what I mean? I kind of see that for you too.
Yeah, that's a good space to be. I feel like I'm getting into that space too. My container is getting much better and like zoning into where I want it to be. And again, Kinsey, I think bringing forth the question of like, what do you want your universe to feel like? Why didn't I ever ask that? Like,
Right,
I
right.
think it's because I didn't want to think of myself as a brand, or like I
Oh
was
yeah.
hiding from that whole idea. I was like, no, I just say shit and some people resonate, and that's what I do.
Right,
You know?
right, right. You're like, I can't be too successful because it's like,
Yeah.
even that is saying that, you
And now
know?
it's just like, boom, here's my web. I am unapologetically
That was
weaving a
perfect
web.
timing. Boom. Yeah, there needs to be like webs like on your something. Some little
Yeah,
nuanced spot
some
on your
sort of web.
website.
Because
A web.
matrix really actually means web and
Hmm.
or womb. I think it's womb, but I think there's iteration of web too. It's all kind of associated in the same language. So
Yeah.
and that's it. Like the womb, the matrix, the web. That's
Mm.
that's like what I'm that's the vibe of my universe. So
Oh my God,
love
it's so
to
cool.
evolve.
It is, and we're like both taking that next thing. One call I want to do with you when the next time we're in this energy equally, because you're on the side of where when we first met, you were starting this tantric iteration, you
Hmm.
know, and when we first met, I was starting Ricky without the 9 to 5. So I've seen you the whole time, it seems,
Hmm.
from that point as the person leading the groups, facilitating, whereas you've seen me build my business. You've seen me the exploratory phase, even with creating the alter ego. And now, like, as I'm going to start having products come out, you know, all kinds of things. So I can't, like, that's also a piece of our work right there, because
Totally.
it's so aligned,
Hmm.
but so on opposite sides of things. It's so. It's like, I honestly would love to be like living proof of what you're talking about. Because,
Yeah,
like, I'm like, sure, it resonates, so why as well try it.
yeah,
You know what I mean?
exactly.
Yeah, yeah,
Well, I'm
yeah.
down. I did when you said that for some reason. I saw one of the times that Doug and I, my partner and I, found a whole bunch of. I think another rock hound had actually like poured out their rocks, or someone put
Mm,
like because they weren't all from that area, but in the mountains there was just this huge pile of rocks, which I wouldn't have been able to know were crystals,
right.
but he recognized it right away, and we filled up like 2 buckets full, and most of it was snowflake obsidian.
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
freaking beautiful. And he has a table that cuts them and polishes them too. And he usually leaves them mostly rough but polished. But the whole reason I'm saying this is because I've been like, I
Wow.
want to take some of these stones and like have a group of people, you know what I mean? Like a private thing. And I want to give everyone one of those stones. And then I just thought, well, that would be a cool pop-up to do with you. Like I don't know if
Wow.
we do it around, but we do a pop-up. We have like 12 people or something, and we give everyone a snowflake obsidian. So that like sets the tone for whatever we do. And like, I don't know, activate some things
Let's let's me and you get the snowflake obsidian,
there.
sit with it, talk, have one of these conversations with it, and then watch that recording back. What do we learn from that recording? And then have that experience with other people, and they all leave with the snowflake obsidian. Like
Yes,
stuff like that. Like it's cooking. It's cooking. It's so good.
I'm in.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah.
I'll have to send you one. Send me your address.
Okay.
I'll
I
send you
will.
snowflake obsidian.
Oh my God, that'd be the best gift. Okay, well, this has been so dope, Amanda,
Yeah,
as
it's great.
always. Yeah,
I mean too.
yeah, I know. Thank you for it. Thank you for it.
Yeah,
Seriously, all of
for
it.
sure.
Yeah,
Awesome. Will you send me the recording too
yeah,
when it's done? Okay,
yes.
perfect.
I'll share it with you on my new computer, which makes everything so much easier. Thank God. So okay, and then we'll connect again soon. And you're going live next when on your?
On Monday at 11:11 in the
Okay,
content
sweet.
group. Yeah.
Okay,
Yep.
I'll be there.
All right. Sounds good. I'll see
All
you.
right. Thank you, Amanda. Bye.